Okay, recording in progress.
Okay, got it. All right, to start with here, I was going to talk about how to set your white balance, when to use it, what it's going to do for you. And on the Canon camera, the white balance is pretty easy to set. You have a button that you can just push and a menu comes up and you can adjust it. Some cameras you have to actually go into the main menu and find it. And then when you get in there, some of those cameras don't have a place where you can manually adjust the Kelvin temperatures on your white balance. So you have to use their presets. And their presets are for incandescent light, sunlight, shade, night. And you just need to click on the one that's going to give you the colors that you want. For instance, if you're shooting in shade, many times the image will be a little blue if you're on auto. And if you click on something that will bring up a warmer image, and you can watch on the back of your camera when you make adjustments. I use live view a lot. And so when I make adjustments, I can watch on the back of my camera what the color temperature looks like, whether it becomes a warmer glow of orange or yellow or reds. And if I go the other way down, let's say 3,800 Kelvin, it will be more blue. You can get your blues and purples that way. So I like to use the manual setting. I use it almost all the time, rather than the icons that are presets. But if all you got is presets, you can, if you push sunlight or daytime, you'll something that's comparable to what your eye sees during that type of light. If you click on the shade part, then when you're doing shade images, it'll warm the image just a little bit and take some of those blues out because shade is very blue in your images. Now, if you go out doing snow, a lot of times you'll see in the shady areas where it's very, very blue. So that's why I like to use the manual settings, because I can bring the temperature up so it's in the gray tones than the blues. I think if I were using a preset, I would probably use the shade setting. I think it was like there's another one that warms the images as well. Incandescent, if you use incandescent, it's going to change it to more of a blue. So you don't want to use that when you're trying to get rid of blues. And the normal sunlight will make the shadows and that on snow a lot bluer also. Is this coming through okay? Is everybody hearing me? Is it still mumbled like?
You're better for me anyway. I can hear you better.
Okay.
Amy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on and off just a little bit.
Yeah, I've been having trouble with it breaking up for some reason this morning as well. So that's the main gist of it. But what I do is I press the button that says white balance, and then I move it over to the manual setting. And because I'm using live view on the back, you can actually watch the temperature change and get the exact setting that you want.
Steve, can you talk about a little bit about the range of the Kelvin? I mean, is the higher number more yellow or more blue?
Yep, you've got it right there when you first set it. When you go up to the higher numbers, you get more of a yellow, warmer colors, yellow, oranges, and reds. will show up a lot better. And so if you're going up to say, let's say 6,500, and you're at a sunset, you're gonna see your sunset colors, the oranges and the reds and that just really get really deeper colors, richer reds and yellows. If you go down to, like, a lot of times I will shoot a sunset at like 3,800 or 4,000, and that will bring the blue out in the sky above where the clouds and that are on the horizon, where the sun has got your orange colors. So you get the blue above and you can get that blend down into the color, right into the sunset down over the horizon.
So on my camera, there's one called Cloudy.
That'll be one that will bring out warmer colors, because in cloud, it's like shade. So in shade, you get the blue, or you get blue colors. And if you don't want the blue, I mean, everything you do for white balance is a choice, your artistic choice. Do you want the blues in there, or do you want it as a warmer color? And so your artistic choice is going through those colors and seeing which you use. Now, I have a little point and shoot that I've been using, and it doesn't have a manual setting, and it just has a few of the presets. And so I just look at the back, because it doesn't even have an eye thing to look through. Yeah, all you got is the monitor on the back. And so I look at the monitor on the back and adjust the presets to get the color temperature that I want. Many times I'll be out in the woods doing, let's say, a picture of mushrooms, and it's a really blue image. You can change it when you come back in, bring it in for post-processing, but the thing everybody needs to realize is the best picture you can bring into your computer, you're going to get the best picture possible out. So the fewer adjustments you need to make, the better your picture will be. So can out of your camera. And so setting those white balance or setting the right techniques are important. So I don't know if I can turn this on. I don't know if you can see it or not. We'll try. No, I have to get in front of it, don't I? So can you see the, nope, it went out, didn't it? You see top monitor, the settings, but they don't stay very long. It starts out with auto, and that's abbreviated to AWB. It stands for auto white balance.
Steve,
Yeah,
if you hold the camera further back from does that help? Nope.
No,
Sorry, just an idea.
yeah.
good
You-
thought.
You can see they're there, but you can't see what it says.
No.
Right.
So, and then the next one is bright sunlight. And what it looks like is a dot with the rays of light that comes off of it. The next icon is shade, and it shows a building with lines of shade coming down off at an angle. And then the next one is cloudy. It just shows a picture of a cloud. The next one is incandescent, and it just shows a light bulb with the rays of light coming off of it. The next one is fluorescent. Fluorescence a lot of times will have a lot of greens in the image.
Hmm.
So, you know, like if you're in the house and you're doing pictures, let's not say a house, let's say
Office.
an office or a school building. Maybe you're doing something in a school building where they're using fluorescent lights. Well, then the greens you'll want to set your white balance on the fluorescent to eliminate the greens that are in the image. And then you have one that looks like a lightning bolt with an arrow, and that one is for your flash. When you click on that one and you use your flash, you get a white balance for your flash. Then there's one that looks like a flower with a vase or something around it. I have never, ever used that one, and I assume it's for close-ups and macros and what you would get with that. And I just don't know what the color is going to do with it. Does anybody have a clue? Is it Terry? Have you ever used it?
No,
So, I
We all
don't,
don't know.
yeah, nobody knows because we don't use that one. And then the next one after that is where it says K, and that's the manual setting to set the actual K value. So most of them have a wheel that you turn, or a wheel that has where you push on one side of the wheel or the other to make the adjustments up or down. So once you get on that setting, then you can adjust it to, you know what, I never have checked to see how far it would go. Well, this one goes up to 10,000 for the highest value. Well, I can imagine how warm that probably is. It's probably like fire. And it goes down, I believe, to 28, 25.
Wow.
So, yeah. So like at night, when I'm doing photography at night, since we're going to be talking about doing night images, most normally I will set my camera at 4,000 to 3,800. And the reason I do that is when I was leaving it on auto or setting it on a night setting of, the other camera has a night setting, but this one does not. But I would go out and try to do stars. And of course, all the stars are just bright white little dots in the image. Well, when I look at it with my eye, and I don't know if you see them, I'm even color deficient, can see that there are some stars that are bluish or purplish, some that are reddish, and I wanted all those colors to show. So I found that if I turn the white balance down to a bluer color, then you start seeing those other colors pop out. And if you're doing street photography, you'll find the same thing at night. Like if you down and you turn the white balance down, let's say 4,500, possibly 42, you'll find that the blues and the reds will pop out more in your image, or like a green in a street light will show up better.
David, I've always heard that shooting with stars should be more like natural sunlight to see the colors, because there are red stars and yellow stars and
Yep.
excuse me, stuff like that.
Well, I've read articles about that, and the people say, well, you want it to be like you were talking about, to show up that other color. However, when I look at the sky, I don't see those colors. I mean, because of my color deficiency, I see more of the blues and the reds and the greens. And like I've always said, and I just said a minute ago, it's all in the eye of the beholder, your artistic choice, what you want to show. The one guy I read, it was very, he had some awesome pictures of the night sky. And he claimed that it needed to be a warmer color and that's what your eyes saw. But when I did that and I brought them into the computer, they were way too warm, and the sky itself, even where there were no stars, looked too yellow as well. And so that's why I started turning it down. And I found I can get a black sky rather than that warmer color sky. And if I go too far, then you'll see the sky turn blue. So you know you've gone too far. The sky should not be blue. At night, it should be a black sky. That's what your eye sees. And so I try to get that sky black. And when I do that down at 44,000 to 3,800, then the colors seem to pop better. And you'll find in Northern Lights, you'll find the same thing. You'll get, instead of all the Northern Lights being all that yellowish green color, you'll find that above that, you'll find pinks and reds and blues, purples that actually have rays of Northern Lights that go above that on the horizon. But at night in downtown, again, I like to use 45 to 42, maybe a 4,000. Because if you're, say like you're standing down and you take a picture down the street and you've got all the lights from the buildings with their Christmas colors shining through it, and you just leave it on auto, you'll find all those lights look orange and reds and yellows. But there's many of them that have greens and blues and that kind of color too. So if you turn that down, you'll see those colors. And it brings out, here, let me see if I can share a picture. I actually kept some pictures to show you. Share screen. Oh my, I didn't put it, hang on a minute. Let's close this out a second. And I'm gonna minify. I think I'm gonna minify. Hang on. I can't get it to go down. Exit, oh, there we go. I'm gonna minify the picture here a minute. If I can figure out how to do that. There we go. And open this up. Pictures.
What do you want your white balance at with Northern Lights?
A lot of times I will use 3,800.
Okay, I think that's,
Okay. Now, can you see my screen here where I'm sharing the screen?
no,
No,
Some images off to the side? No?
no,
no.
Okay, let's bring this up again. How about now?
yep,
Okay, so if you look at this Christmas lights here, this was done on auto white balance. So if you look at, you can see the lights on the house and on the snow, how orange and reds and stuff they are.
Yeah.
And it actually has a string of blue lights right there. So I didn't redo this because this is when I was first learning to do night photography. And, I was very disappointed. Also, notice how grainy it is. And that was because I was using 100 ISO and I had to really lighten it in post-processing. So things get really grainy. And you really want to use an ISO that's going to give you the proper exposure. And if anything, you want to overexpose just a hair, because if you darken the image, you don't get the grain. You actually remove some of the grain when the image is darkened in post-processing. Where this, of course, this one I used a filter to make all the lights look like snowflakes. But down here in the snow, you notice the snow is white. You notice this light over here on the left is white. It is not that orange that you see in the regular incandescent street lights that you get when you use auto white balance.
Did you adjust the white balance in Photoshop? or just didn't touch it? Just,
I try not to touch it. Mainly because of my color deficiency. A lot of times if I'm adjusting colors on the computer, I have to have my wife sit right beside me and say, no, more green. No, too much. So, especially with reds, I have problem with reds. So I try to get the best picture possible in camera. And that's the best for everybody, because the old saying is crap in, crap out. So if you get a bad picture that you bring into the computer, it's not going to be perfect or really good when you bring it out of the computer. So you want to get as good as you can in camera. So here's another one that I did where I got it just a little bit too low because I was looking at the colors here on the side of the house when I adjusted it. But if you look at the snow, look how blue it is. And there should be some blue there, but not to that extent. So this is one that was shot at too low a white balance. So I went and pulled some
It's
of these
pretty
up.
though.
Yeah, I agree. The light showed up really well. They did good. But for true color, the snow shouldn't be quite that blue. I mean, you could change that in the computer in post processing, and you can just select that area and adjust just that area so your lights stay the same. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I just didn't do it. I wanted to be able to demonstrate what I actually captured and why.
Steve, should you have then made that the white balance higher, lower, or higher? It should have been higher because
It
you wanted
should
to
have been
bring up, right?
Correct. I probably shot that one and I don't remember. And if I go into my, what do you call it?
metadata.
Metadata, correct. File info. It won't tell me what I use. If I go to camera data, it just doesn't tell me what the white balance was. And I've gone down here to origin and advanced, and I went through all of these to see what the color balance was. I found one place that said something about color balance, and it just said color balance 1. And I have no idea what that meant. So,
When you're shooting raw, does the color balance get into that data? Does anybody know?
it does. I shoot raw, that's all I shoot.
It should.
Yeah.
I don't know. If it's raw, it's raw. It's just the whatever information came through the lens and falls on the sensor, and that's what you record. And then when you look at it on the back of your camera, it's been processed.
Yeah, you're correct. It's a JPEG.
So the information on the card is not what you see on the back of your camera. There's a processing step in between. Camera is a computer that acts just like whatever.
There is indeed.
Please.
I implore you to go out and do pictures with RAW and change your color balance a large amount so you can tell the difference, and bring them into your computer and see if they don't look different.
Yeah,
They
that's a good idea.
definitely show the difference.
I had cataract surgery 6 months ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and they do it one eye, and then 3 weeks later they do the other eye.
Yep.
And I had the first one, and I had to go back the next day for a checkup. And they didn't want me to drive, so Julie was driving. So I've had one eye covered up and has been fixed, and the other eye is like it's always been. And I took the cover off to look and started closing one eye and the other eye. And I found about 1,000-degree Kelvin difference between what I was seeing.
Yeah, I don't doubt
Close
it.
to it. So that makes me question, what the hell am I seeing when I put it on the screen and and look through the camera and everything else? Which way?
Absolutely,
It was crazy.
absolutely.
The same problem.
Yeah, and I've gone, when I was in the eye doctor and he's checking my eyes and he's setting my glasses, I said, no, I need you to get this exactly as close as you can. I don't want anything just, oh, that's good enough. I want it sharp, I said, because I'm a photographer and I'm using this camera and I need to make sure it's sharp because I manually focus a lot. I need it to be sharp when I bring it out of the computer, out of the camera. And, yeah, he kind of chuckles and he does the best he can, but the color thing is altogether different. That's yeah, cataract thing.
That's the front of the eye. The colors are in the back of the eye.
Yeah, yeah. So, but if you're filtering that color with a cataract, that's changing it. So I started to show this picture and you see what the street lights look like. And the lights in the buildings. And so this was a warmer white balance setting. You can even see that orange and yellow color shining on the cars. But that's when I was standing there looking at this image before I did the images, that's what I saw. So I wanted to demonstrate that. And so here you got some blues. And I don't know what went by that the back end of their vehicle had the blue on it. So this is the headlights and this is the taillights on this side. So notice how the sky in this picture is black. It's not yellow and it's not blue. And that was one of these where we stayed late after a beach cleanup. And I was doing pictures right there by the creek. This is a creek down here at the bottom. And so this was the Milky Way coming up over it. So you notice there are warmer colors here in the Milky Way.
Yeah.
So you're getting warmer colors here. Let's see if I can see if there's, right in here, there's some souls and blues.
That's beautiful.
I don't see there were, I don't remember if it was one of the other pictures that I did, but there was some actual like pretty bright blue, like this star here has got a little blue purple into it. Maybe it's behind my, no. Okay. So at night, doing night pictures, moving on to that is, as you shoot at night, like fireworks, I was taught to use 100 ISO and you shoot it just like you do with daylight as far as your techniques. And when I first started doing that, my pictures were really had a lot of reds and oranges and stuff in it. And I was using auto white balance. Notice if you look closely, you can see some blues in here. There's some right over here. They're not very, very bright. But when you look at this, down here at the blues down in this one, how bright they are, and the purple, there were no blues in it, but look at how the pinks and the reds and that, and this is more with a lower, cooler white balance. Now this, again, shooting at night, this is like, I was using a 75 to 300 lens. Let's go look and see what the actual camera data is. So there's a 70 to 300, I'm sorry. So this is a 3-second exposure to f8 on 100 ISO because as you see here, it says 90 millimeters. I had it set on 90. I was sure I had it set on 100, but I mean, you can be off a little bit with a zoom lens. Okay, so it's just like shooting daylight. What is it, the sunny 16 rule or cloudy F11 rule? Is everybody familiar with that?
No. Mm-mm.
No. During the daytime, if you're using a manual exposure, they tell you to use f16 at whatever lens length you use would be the ISO. So if what is it, 1/100th of a second at f16 on 100 ISO with a 100mm lens should get you proper exposure during the sunlight. So I wanted to picture these lights, and they say to shoot those just like you were shooting the sunlight. Okay? So that would, using a 100mm lens, 1/100th of a second. I didn't have that though, did I? I had, see, I used 3 seconds because I was doing a long exposure to get all these lines as a, instead of just a dot.
Mhm.
Okay. So I can, this, you can look at it with a long exposure. With cars moving, I'm using 51, what would you call it? 50, I don't know how you, that's a fraction of a second. But it's long enough, it's like a half a second. It's long enough, it gives you a nice blur in the lights. Here's another one that's like that, but I was panning with this, and I had to get this picture because every time I'm out, almost every time I'm out doing pictures, some officer of the law shows up, be it a DNR officer or policeman or state patrolman. So this guy went by while I was taking pictures.
It's
This
your
is across,
reputation, Stephen.
I guess. Man, it's amazing how many show up. I've even had them stop and ask me what I was doing. And I'm standing there with a tripod and a camera, and they're asking me, what am I doing?
Taking
So-
pictures of nude neighbors.
Yeah, well, I've been out, there's a schoolhouse out near South Boardman, and I was out there doing pictures of the fall colors around the schoolhouse. And the policeman pulls up beside me and gets out of the car and comes over, and he says, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, well, I'm taking pictures. What can you do? I mean, tripod, a camera, and just taking pictures. He's doing his job. So, you know, I looked strange, I guess, so he's checking me out. So this was done, I was standing across, it used to be the Holiday Inn. Carrie said the name has changed. The other night I was talking to him.
Called the Delmar.
The Delmar. Okay, so I was panning, and to practice panning, shooting cars that were going by. And this guy came by, so I had to grab a shot. But with a longer exposure, if you see if you get the timing right, you can sharpen the image of the car and still have the blurring, so it indicates motion. And so, and at night, again, you get your white balance. Notice how blue the blue is in the car. It looks just like a police officer. The light and the street light up here is white. And of course, all the lights, the incandescent lights and stuff that are on the motel are all the oranges and reds. Ooh, what was that?
Don't know.
So, I don't either. So, are there any questions that I can follow up on? No?
Can't-
So,
I've got a question, Stephen.
sure.
What is the actual Kelvin temperature of natural sunlight? Isn't it like 5,500?
Correct. The sunlight is 5,500.
Okay.
And then so if you're going into shade, you're talking more like, maybe 5,000 or 4,800.
Mhm.
I'm gonna unshare my screen here. These are just the pictures that I had. And you've seen them all.
They're very nice.
How do I unshare?
Stephen, what did you use to light paint with that picture of the Milky Way?
I'm sorry, what did I use what for it?
What did you use to light paint the trees?
Oh, I had an LED flashlight,
Okay,
and at first trying to use that, it was too bright. So I put my hand over the end of it and just left a slit between my fingers to do it
wow.
as I pan back and forth. It doesn't take much light when you're doing the sky to illuminate this down here. So you have to be very careful not to overdo it. One time I was trying to do a picture of the lake with the Milky Way out at Guernsey Lake. And I set up a tent right beside the water, and I was trying to light the inside of the tent. So it was just like a little, not bright, but kind of like a dim glow inside a red tent. And I started out with a flashlight, and I hung it from a string in the peak down to the bottom and turned it on. Oh my goodness, it overpowered everything in the picture. So I said, okay, I had 3 settings on that flashlight, and I turned it to the dimmest. It still overpowered everything. Wound up, put tape over the end of it, and just leaving a tiny, tiny little dot of light coming out. And it still lit up the tent very bright. And I mean, it didn't overpower it anymore. It wasn't quite what I wanted, but it was still too bright.
Wow.
So now I want to do it again, and I'm going to take one of those. Have you ever seen the electric candles that people put out? They're not very bright, especially if you have a low battery in them. And I thought about getting, when one of them battery goes low, putting that inside the tent and see how that works.
Oh, cool.
So
I can never get my Milky Way to be as bright as that.
I think you'll find that in post-processing in this, I changed the contrast to bring out some of the brighter areas.
Hmm.
And in the raw converter, I also used the circular paintbrush. And then you can do the same thing in Lightroom and just run a circular paintbrush about the size of this up and down it, and then you can adjust the brightness with a slider, so it's not too bright, it's not too dark. So
What sort of ISO did you use for that?
You're breaking up. I couldn't tell what you said.
What ISO did you use for the star image?
Oh, okay. I'm thinking I used 100, but let's check.
No.
No, 3,200. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep, 3,200. So that's 3,200 ISO. So there with me. Andy Merrick, I think, was standing there with me when we were doing this.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, it was. Well, at least a year, because we didn't go down there last year at all.
Yes, we did. Oh, I know what you mean. Well, I thought we did once or twice down that way.
No, not down by the creek, we didn't.
Oh, but Andy hasn't been out. He's only been out there a couple times, but it's been several years, at least 3 years, I think.
Yep. So as long as you're gonna practice this, if you're gonna try doing this, December 12th at between 4 a.m. and daybreak in the east sky, there should be a comet.
Yes, I thought it was the 23rd.
Maybe it starts December 12th.
Oh,
I don't know. On my
Yeah, I
web-
thought it was this weekend.
yeah, isn't today's the 11th? So
yeah.
yeah, so Sunday's the 12th. Yeah.
Of course, our weather is so good to see the sky.
That's the way it always is.
That's
Northern-
right.
Northern lights
Michigan.
are the same way.
Or it's always on a work night for me.
There you go. All right, who wants to tell me how I can get rid of this, this share screen? Oh, stop here? Ah,
Yep.
okay. How about that? If you read the screen, you find out. So, how many, I know Amy has gone out and done night pictures. Well, what has been your experiences with this?
I couldn't hear you.
I said, I know you go out and do night pictures. What has
Not
been,
much.
not much?
No, it's with you or Terry or,
Yeah.
you know.
You know, when I go out to do images, I always like to take a camera that I can put a lens on that can get a low f-stop, like an f2.8 or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because that way it lets in as much light as possible and I can get a shorter exposure. Like if I'm doing down the streets. Of course, your artistic choices are, if you want to get people out of the image while you're shooting pictures down the street, then you want to use a longer exposure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Terry, do you have any experience using a neutral density filter at night?
I have, when we've been down to the amusement thing at Cherry Festival,
Yes.
to darken things up, particularly when it's like dusk and you still want to get basically the lights, not sky.
And does that helps you with getting longer exposure?
Yep,
You demonstrate like a Ferris wheel going around?
right.
Okay. I've not tried that yet, and I need to do that. Normally I just change it to an f22 or
Yeah.
whatever I can get that's a higher f-stop. But then you start losing a lot of light.
Yeah.
So I like to use, even at sunset, I like to use the neutral density filter.
Mhm.
And my one lens I don't have one for it. So that's on my Christmas list.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Steve,
Yeah.
I explain that Kevin went down to pick his daughter at 11 o'clock last night and drive her up. That's
Was
why
that
he's
Kevin? I
snoozing
didn't know who was doing
I
that.
didn't know either.
But that's fine, because I've been known to fall asleep myself like that. So I not criticize that.
We get to tease him now.
Not me. I'm not gonna, because I do it enough myself.
Well, you know, you can, I'll do it and I'll run.
So Dale, with you live right there by the, I can't think of the name of the lake right there near Kalkaska.
I live
What's
on the
name of that?
Rapid River.
You got the- Right, you live by the Rapid River, then down there by the dam that's not too far from you, is it?
No, Rug Pond is about a mile away.
That's what I was thinking of, Rug Pond. So you could go down there and do pictures at night and get reflections in the water and,
I have done that.
okay. Can you walk across, you can walk across that dam, can you not?
Yeah, it's an earthen dam, so you can walk all the way across.
So you can get any direction you want that, except from the one side is all trees.
Yeah, it'd be hard to shoot it from the south side because it's all swampy down there.
Okay.
Oh.
Usually the Milky Way comes out of the west, I believe it is, and goes east as the earth turns during the summer. So you could go down there and do that and get reflections of it in the water as well.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be a good place for you to practice. I like to go, I go a little farther away. I go all the way to Guernsey Lake because of the campgrounds and stuff there. If a policeman comes through, he doesn't bother me too much. Because- and I've been down there and they've come down. I've been standing there right by the boat launch to take pictures, and he drives right down to the boat launch with the rabbits, messing up my picture.
You must have a police magnet or something, Steve.
You know, I do. And I've just learned to be careful.
Yeah, you must.
So, well, it must be because when I was a kid, I was always in trouble. So,
The one area that we like to go sometimes to do stars is out at North Bar Lake, because around that north end of it, you're shooting south and you get the Milky Way over the lake, which is really nice. And North Bar Lake is usually pretty calm,
cool.
so you can get some good reflection.
If you stand at the overlook at High Rollway, which direction are you looking?
South,
South?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that'd be a good place to stand and do the Milky Way some night. And then I don't know if you could, it's far enough away, you might be able to use a flashlight to lighten it up down below, down by the river. So that you got the trees and everything and the Milky Way. It's
And you
just-
hear lots of frogs.
Well, in the springtime, you certainly will. I don't know
Yeah.
did you go see the spring peepers in the spring?
You know what? We went with Kevin, Lori and I went with Kevin after when was that? Was that in October? I think it was October. We did a fall shoot. And then we were asking about this spot and he said, oh, we go down there all the time. You want to go? And we said, sure. So we went down and I'm pretty sure it was North Bar. And I don't know if I'd be able to find it, without somebody showing me, but well, I mean, I probably could with my phone, but anyway, I don't remember particularly how to get there, but it was nice. It was a nice old spot, but I'm thinking at night that would be kind of creepy. I mean, I wouldn't go by myself. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that can be interesting. I've done Northern Lights at what is it? Where the cannery is at Glen Arbor.
Yeah.
I've done Northern Lights there that I've gone. They had the platform there by the boat.
Yeah.
And I went there one night by myself and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm sitting up there waiting for the Northern Lights and a car pulls up. And I'm like, uh-oh, this really makes me nervous because I'm sitting there with all my camera gear.
Right.
And a woman gets out and she walks up and she climbs up there on the platform with me and she says, are you seeing the Northern Lights yet? I'm like,
Was it Lisa?
no, it was not. And it was a very cold night.
Oh,
And not yet. She says, oh, good. And she ran down, she got her camera gear and she came up and she said, you mind if I sit beside you? And I'm like, this is creepy. Like, I suppose, go ahead. I don't care. And the Northern Lights did come out, but while we were sitting there, she was talking to me about it. She came up all the way from Detroit
oh,
just to be there to shoot the Northern Lights that night.
wow.
Oh, wow.
Well, you don't know who's gonna come while you're out at night doing pictures. So I totally understand how it could be creepy, because I found that creepy.
Oh, yeah, better with a group. Much
But
better, much
when-
better with a group.
when she set up her camera and started taking pictures, I started feeling better.
Yes,
You
yes.
know? So,
Jody and I went out to Good Harbor Bay,
Oh.
off the end of Good Harbor Trail. And there's that little turnaround there that's off the beach, but it has a nice open area that gives you some good star stuff. And we went out there, I think we waited till about 11 o'clock to go out there. And there were 3 or 4 cars there, so we waited till all those cars left. And then I set up my tripod and I wanted to get some star trail images. So I was taking, a series of short, but the idea was to get a long exposure to get the star trails. I got about 3/4 an hour into this thing, was getting some nice results. And then 4 cars drive up. This is like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. What the hell? So screwed up the whole thing.
yeah,
So we gave up and came home.
that quick too.
Oh my God.
But I know Dale knows the number 9 place out on Pier Stocking Drive. And that's a good place for night.
I love it there.
Yeah. So I used to
Especially
take,
when it's windy, right, Amy?
Yeah. Oh, God. And it's windy a lot.
Okay,
We've gotten sandblasted a few times.
oh man,
can
I
you
sit
get
out
out there?
all night
Get
one
out there
night.
today, I just got a wind advisory for up there, or 45-mile-an-hour gusts or something.
Yes, today.
doing,
Today,
Yeah,
So
it's
I-
supposed to be windy.
at night and doing pictures, and it's a great spot. I spent the whole night there, and I'd go on one side of the number 9 down on the hill a little bit
Yeah.
and get the platform in the image
Yeah.
of the Milky Way. And then I'd go around to the other side,
Yes.
and there's actually a level spot. You go down just a little ways, and there's a level spot on both sides.
Yeah.
So I'd set up on that level spot and then shoot north. And then I would do the star trails like Terry was talking about.
I know.
You got the northern lights, the North Star, and you get the circular thing there.
Like towards number 10.
Well, you're at number 9,
Right. But 10 is just like you turn around and go back.
but yeah, you face north, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you face the Glen Lakes.
No,
Oh,
just face up the dunes, just straight up the dunes.
oh. Okay. Gotcha.
And it's beautiful. But being there all night, it's amazing how many people came in there at night. And I'm trying to get pictures like Terry. I'm trying to shoot north to get a long exposure. And people walk out on the platform and they're shining their flashlights all over the place. So I got so that when I saw them walking in, I'd holler at them from where I was and tell them, don't walk out there with your flashlight, and, oh, I didn't, okay, you're taking pictures? Yeah, I said, I don't want your lights in the picture. I says, come join me here and you can take some pictures from here. So I actually met quite a few people that actually knew me from Facebook, but from me putting pictures on Facebook.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
It was kind of strange, but yeah, it's still creepy, Amy.
Creepy is the right word.
Yeah.
Just creepy.
I was trying to take pictures of the Milky Way in my driveway at the cabin one night. And what I wanted to do was get the stars, in the Milky Way, and then use a flashlight to kind of light paint the cabin. I thought that'd be a nice picture with the Milky Way up there and then the cabin all lit up. And we had a Generac generator installed a couple of years ago, and that's sitting right next to the garage. Well, it has a little green light on it about that big, just to show that the thing is ready to kick in and ready to go. the first picture I took, the whole thing was green. It's that little 1-inch light just wiped out everything that I was trying to do.
Let's see, and that explains, just like what I was telling earlier with the flashlight, how it's so easy to blow out the image, get too much light.
Yeah.
When you're light painting. I've tried that at the lighthouse on the peninsula. When I walked out, there usually was a time when there was no water all the way up to the beach. You
Yeah.
could walk way out and turn around and shoot back at the lighthouse. And I was way out there and I just flashed it on and off. And it just really blew out the image at night. Because I wanted to get the stars. So I'm using, like Terry said, 3200 ISO. And it doesn't take much to blow it out. So you have to consider that, how bright or dim you want your lights when you're doing something like that.
Dale,
I
put a
fixed
piece
it with
of,
some alligator tape.
I was gonna say, put some duct tape over that little green light.
Right, I did.
Yeah. So I a lot of times will have some tape with me to, or just use my hand. A lot of times there's enough light that goes actually through your fingers, even with your fingers closed, to light something up that's closer with 3200 ISO. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
And-
anxious for some group shoots after the holidays. We'll do some group shoots then.
After, like January night, burr.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be cold
It will be.
and it'll be on a weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. And we'll have to bring some heaters or something along too.
Yeah.
Problem is those put off light also.
Yes, they do. Well, and you know what? We usually, we've done this for years, but we'll go out to the lighthouse and have a group out there and we walk out on the ice. I've got pictures of Stephen and Terry and Jody and everybody out there. And,
Daytime.
we've done a lot of that too. We'll play after the holidays.
Yeah, that was daytime.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much ice we're gonna have.
What's that?
I thought you were talking about doing night photography.
Well, I am both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's actually some beach out there now. So
Yeah.
a year ago, there wasn't.
No.
The water was right up to the bottom of the steps.
I remember you and I
So-
went out there, Stephen, I think it was last summer, and we went out for Northern Lights. We're supposed to be out. I think we saw a dot and it was gone. It was just out there just for a minute. And I think I got one shot of that kind of, and then it was gone.
It was gone.
That was it.
So you gotta have a good KP value. But
Well, and then clouds were moving in, of course.
yeah. Well, now white balance that we talked about makes a big difference with that too.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing. There's so much more than just that green that you see on the horizon that's so bright, with the purples and the pinks and the reds that are higher up, streaking up. And I've done pictures before. I've been with Terry out at Glen Arbor doing Northern Lights, and the clouds were rolling in, and I took some pictures because the clouds, and Terry looks at the back of my monitor and says, "Oh, you got the Northern Lights." And I didn't even know they were out. I couldn't see them.
Wow.
But the 3200, you could see the blues and that sticking up above the clouds.
Wow.
It is amazing what your camera can capture that your eyes can't see.
It is indeed. I learned at night shooting Northern Lights, I'll take a picture every so often, even if I can't see them,
Okay.
just to see if they show up.
Yeah, Terry, do you do any more night shooting?
Not much.
That's okay. We'll
Yeah.
go during the day too.
Yeah. So, yeah, Northern Lights and star trails and street lights. If you know where the Holiday Shopper is, as you go around the bay, and it's on the west side of the bay.
The building?
Yeah, it's a gas station and the Holiday Shopper.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, yes.
Right across from there, there's a big tall building with a large parking lot.
I go there. I love it there.
Yeah, if you go there at night and
Yeah.
shoot across the bay, shoot
Yeah.
south, you can get a pretty panoramic there. And again, the white balance, if you set the white balance down, I think I was shooting at 3200. I could actually see the green in the stoplight that's right straight up the street.
Wow.
And there was some water sprinklers that were on
Oh,
in the open space. And the lights that would light those up were showed up a little bit blue in the 3200 was a little bit too blue.
wow.
But it really made the picture interesting because even inside in the lights, like in the Park Place, people had different colored lights inside their rooms and stuff. It was pretty interesting.
That's
So,
great.
I got a question. So when you go out there, particularly to do this, lights across the bay or downtown or somewhere, I mean, what's a good place to start with getting your settings? Because, obviously part of it is what you're trying to accomplish, but part of it is just your basic settings. If you, let's say you're going downtown to do the Christmas shoot and you're looking down the street,
ISO 100.
you leave it on 100?
If I'm
ISO
doing-
1,
if I'm doing the street lights, the street down the street, a wide angle lens at ISO 100, but I'm also using a tripod.
you assume the tripod, yeah.
Yeah.
But a wide angle lens like a 25 millimeter or 50
sure.
millimeter,
Yeah, that'll work.
whatever.
I like to stay below a 30 or 35 millimeter, somewhere, between 10 and 35.
So then, how do you sort of gauge? I mean, I know there's no absolute formula, but how do you gauge how many seconds you leave this thing on? I can never figure out the second,
Well,
how long you want to
here's
leave it on.
Good place to start. And then if you keep track of that, then you can change it to manual and make adjustments if you like, or you can use, what's it called? There's an adjustment that you can do for like aperture priority.
Oh, yeah.
You use aperture priority and you can use the wide angle lens. And then you can set the f-stop that you want for the depth of field that you want. So if you want to see all the way down the street, you want like an f18 to a f22. And in aperture priority, your camera will set the time itself. Okay. And then if you find that to be too bright or too dark, then you can make an adjustment in the program. Oh, let's see, what's it called? My brain isn't working right on that, so. Oh, shoot, it didn't tell me. There's a place where you can do an adjustment, plus or minus. I
Oh,
know your camera has.
Exposure compensation.
Thank you, exposure compensation.
mhm.
You can set the exposure compensation up a stop or down a stop. It's just like doing winter photography. If you're shooting white snow in the winter, your camera wants to make it gray. So if you go up a stop, you'll get a whiter snow. Okay.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
at night's the same way. So if you find it's your camera's trying to make everything too bright because of the dark sky and everything, then you can still use aperture priority, but you can turn the exposure compensation down a stop or maybe a stop and a half to get the blacks that you want.
It seems as if you've got an ISO of 100, you're really going to end up with if you start there, is it, am I thinking correctly that you'd end up with a long exposure? You'd end up with a very slow shutter speed to capture that.
Correct.
And if you're shooting down a street, are you gonna get people, you're gonna get people walking in and out? Or,
With a long exposure, you're not gonna see the people. Because they move through the image, your camera won't record them in one spot enough to be able to see them.
There'll be ghosts.
Yeah, sometimes they'd look ghostly, or
Yeah.
sometimes if they stop, then you'll record them.
And
know,
you
like
can,
if they
you
walk
can
over to the
play-
side of the street to cross the street and then stop before they cross, then you'll get them standing on the corner before they cross.
mhm.
yeah, and
Okay,
you can play with the time too, like start at 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. I mean, you can start that way too and play with that. We just did that Wednesday night.
mhm.
We were down there and I haven't even had time to even look at my photos yet, but we were down there and we were playing with, the lights.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay,
and if you're having trouble, you want a shorter exposure time, and you're having trouble getting what you want, you can change it to a 4 or 800 ISO, keep that shorter exposure,
okay.
okay?
Kick it up, yeah, okay.
The trick is to make sure though, if you're using a higher ISO, that you want to overexpose, just to keep that up. So
You're breaking up there, Steve. Can you
Okay.
repeat that?
yeah, so the trick is at night shooting with a higher ISO, if you overexpose a third or a half a stop, when you bring it into the computer, you darken it down a little bit. And that way you can reduce some of the grain that you get with the higher ISOs,
Right. Okay,
okay?
that's helpful. Thank you.
And I found that grain to be so disconcerting. When I first started doing night photography, it just ruined my pictures. I was just like, these aren't any good. I just would delete them.
Yeah.
It was such a disappointment.
But to Mary's point, if you want to eliminate the people in the picture, just make it a longer exposure. And then
Yeah.
they'll disappear.
Yeah,
And that'll work with a low ISO.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
As can carry also the neutral density filter, because you can put that on and get an even longer exposure.
Right.
You could actually put that on, to get 1 or 2 minute exposure and just stand there and wait for it to be done. And it doesn't matter how many cars or people drive through or walk through, you're really not going to get them in the image that much. The headlights might show up for a little bit, but they're not going to be real bright.
Amy, when you were down there, did you shoot into any buildings? I had been down there once, I think in one of these shoots many years ago. And there was some cool things in one of the store windows. And
Yeah.
And I wanted to, in the other place, there was a guy sitting in a bar reading a newspaper and I wanted to take his picture, but I couldn't figure out how to do that. You've got a technique to get through that window without necessarily having all the reflection back on you.
Right. And I didn't shoot into any buildings this year, but I have in the past. And again, you just have to kind of play with that, get your tripod out and start at, 5 seconds, if you're shooting into light. So you want to keep it at a low ISO,
Mhm.
but, start at, low numbers with 5 seconds, 10 seconds until you
And just
you have
see
to
what,
kind of play with that a little bit.
yeah.
Also,
And it's really nice to be with Stephen or Terry, and you can just say, hey,
Yeah. Hey,
you
what am
can-
I doing?
yeah,
But the one thing about shooting through the window is if you have your polarizing filter on, you can control how much reflection you get.
and that I have not tried. I
Yeah.
will try that next time.
Yeah.
The thing you have
Another
to
thing you can
remember
do-
is you're shooting the light not the darkness. So, you know, there's, they basically want to ignore the darkness. It's the lights that you're trying to focus on. And that your exposure is going to be based on that light.
Yeah. Now, with the polarizer on, do you shoot an ISO of 100 or is it a little higher?
Depends on how bright it is.
Okay, you got to play with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And
you
the
could
angle.
you could use an ISO 100. It's just going to be a long exposure.
Yeah. Okay.
Change the angle that you point your camera at too, so it's angled down slightly to reduce the glare.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice to be down there with folks, with other photographers, because, you know, you can kind of talk with them back and forth and say, did you try this? Did you try that? You know, I love group shoots for that reason, you know, because there's always somebody there to ask,
Right.
you know, so
That's-
that's always nice.
Of doing the meetups is so you can have a learning experience while you're getting some good shots.
Yeah. And it's just more fun.
Yeah,
True. That's true.
it is a lot of fun. Then you also find places where you go back later by yourself and do more,
Yeah. Yeah.
like Pete's Woods.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we bring
yeah.
food
yeah, there you go. So
for
Amy,
Candy in Amy's case.
Amy, we
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
There you go, chocolate. About high rollways. So if you go in the one place, you got the platform looking one direction, and the other one you got looking almost 90 degrees to that a bench right there.
Oh, yeah.
So you could get different views of the sky from there at night. You mentioned the peepers, and in the spring peepers are quite loud. On your way in, just as you're driving in, before you get to where you turn to go into the parking, on the left-hand side, there's some big rocks and that right there along the road. That fills up with water in the spring, and that's where the spring peepers are.
Oh,
Okay, so what I do is I take a 5-gallon pail to sit on, and I go in there and walk right up to the edge of the water and set my tripod up and my big lens and 2x converters, and I sit there with a cable release and focus right on a frog that's hiding, and I'll wait for him to start peeping. And you might have to wait half hour, 45 minutes. And then they start peeping, then you can get all kinds of pictures. Just
Oh,
don't
good.
make any quick or sudden movements. Don't move your feet on the ground, because any noise, any movement that they see, they all disappear and you have to wait another half an hour. So, yeah, but you can get some great shots there of the spring peeper, but you gotta have a big lens. 'Cause
And you
they're
gotta
really-
be patient.
Yeah,
yeah.
and they're really small. They're only about the size of your little finger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're really tiny.
Wow, wow, wow.
So, but they're fun.
Yeah.
But that would be a great spot to shoot at night, I think. I'm gonna have to try that now that I've mentioned it. I'll have to figure out which way is north and south and find out what. I think if you're at that bench, you probably can be facing towards the. You'd have to be there early morning as the Milky Way sets in the morning, towards morning. Because you'd be facing east, I think.
Oh,
So, yeah, there's all kinds of places like that for night. Anybody, if you drive around, you can find little lakes and stuff. They're actually pretty close to the roads that you can just pull off, and there's usually a little boat launch or something where somebody kayaks, like Ellis Lake. You know where Ellis Lake is?
no.
If you're heading out towards Interlochen, there's a little restaurant or something on the side of the road. It's called Frog Pond. And you drive in behind there.
Oh,
and
yeah,
the
yeah,
boat
yeah.
launch to Ellis Lake.
I don't think it's Frog Pond anymore. I think it's Blue Bridge, maybe.
Oh, okay. Everything's changing owners
I-
and they changing their names. I'm surprised Little Bows kept their original name.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you can find all kinds of little lakes and stuff that have openings. The problem with that is Ellis Lake, you probably have a lot of city lights or lights from houses that pollute the sky. So, but you want to, if you get out of town, you can find them. And that's where, you know, it depends on what you want for your picture.
Yeah.
So like shooting the city from over there by Holiday Shopper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can do
That'd be cool.
pictures from the state park across the bay for the Acme there, the big building there in Acme, the resort.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can do
You know,
those.
there's a little park right there, before you get up to 72, in Acme. And there's a little park, there's a gas station, I think it's Shell.
Yeah,
And there's a
Right,
gas
right.
station right next to it. That's a fun place to go too.
yeah, I'll bet you could do some nice pictures of the city from there at night.
Yeah.
Shooting down the bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, and then remember your ISO, what ISO you are and how bright you want to make the picture. I mean, I go near there. I sat there in Acme to do lightning pictures at night. When lightning comes, I back up right to the bay, right across from the little party store there in Acme at the light. And I sat there in the back of my pickup truck with hatch open. I shoot pictures of lightning right out of there. And when the storm gets too close and it's getting my lens wet and everything, I just close it up and wait the storm out. So it's a great spot to be. And lightning is the same way. I'll set up a wide angle lens at 100 ISO and f8 at whatever it takes to get the picture, you know, 100th of a second or I think I've been using 0.5 of a second to get lightning because lightning strikes twice when it goes off. Did you know that? You ever notice how it blinks? You ever watch it?
Yep.
So if you're waiting, it's blink when it goes off. And so my lightning trigger is fired on the first picture, the first blink, and you actually catch the second blink when you get the picture of the lightning.
You have
So,
a lightning trigger? Is that what I heard you say?
yep. It's a little tool you can buy. You can get them online. And that's actually, you can go lightningtrigger.com and find it. And you hook it up to your camera. And it's a sensor that I put up on, you put it on where the flash goes. And it's got a wire that comes around, plugs in where you would plug in a cable release. And you set your techniques and turn the camera on and face it towards where you expect the lightning to be. And when the lightning blinks, it sets off the camera, sets off the trigger, and trigger fires the camera. So that's how I get my lightning pictures.
It's pretty
Now,
cool.
It is cool. And the problem is knowing where the lightning is going to be.
Yeah.
Because you have to know which way the storm's going to go, and you have to set it up so that the lightning will flash as it's passing your camera. And that's why it's nice to go over by Acme, because storms almost always come out of the west or southwest. So you keep the storm in your picture longer from there. So,
That'd be
So
worth a try.
yeah. When I first started, I put my camera on bulb at night. And I would just stand there with a remote, with the cable release, with it on bulb, facing where I expect the lightning to be. And then the lightning would flash, then I'd turn the exposure off and start another one and wait for another flash. But when you do that, you have to set your camera on a real dark exposure, because the night lights, the city lights and whatever glows in the sky will show up in the picture and overexpose image when the lightning hits.
Mm-hmm.
So the lightning trigger, you can actually set the exposure you want just for the lightning. And then when the lightning strikes, boom, you got your picture, and it just flashes the for like mine, I set for 0.5 of half a second, and it shoots the picture and it's done. And then it's ready for the next picture.
You
But-
want- Another hint is doing fireworks. You're saying bulb reminded me of this. When you're
Yeah.
doing fireworks, put it on bulb, put a black card in front of your lens, and if you want multiple explosions in your picture, then you just take it off and put it back in front of your lens until you get as many captures as you want to get.
So you leave it on a long exposure and you're really just
I'm
putting
just
the
pulling
light in and out with the card.
Yeah, a black card and just pull it
black
out when it goes off and put it back over it. Pull it off when the next one goes off.
Wow, that's cool.
So that way you get, you can get 3, 4, 5, or however many explosions or fireworks in one exposure. And that's kind of fun to do that too, because you can get some really dramatic images that way. I'll bet you could do that with cars and stuff like I did with that moving image there at the state park. You could do the same thing. I didn't even think about that when I was shooting them. I sat up there and waited. The light in, what is it, 5 Mile and the light at 3 Mile would change about the same time. And so the cars would get to me when I was up on the bridge when they were at about the same time. So I stood there and waited for the lights to change to take the pictures. But the black card would work well for that.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Who would have thought?
yeah. Well, I remember Marilyn doing that one time, and that's when I first met her, and I walked down there and talked to her about the camera club.
And the rest is history, as they say.
So,
The rest of the story.
That
Wanna
was a
talk
lot of
about-
years ago.
Want to talk about Star Trails, Steve?
Star Trails, oh my goodness, there's so many different ways to do Star Trails. The way I do Star Trails is I set my camera up on a tripod facing where I want it. And I usually will do a test photo of about 5 minutes, just to see if I've got the North Star where I want it in the image, and what in the image is going to silhouette to show up with it. So I do a test photo. It takes 5 minutes, and then of course, because I turn when I'm doing night photography, I turn noise reductions. There's a noise reduction for night, and there's a noise reduction for long exposure. And I turn those up to as high as they will go to reduce all the noise reduction. Then what happens is, if you do a 5-minute exposure, it takes 5 minutes for your camera to edit that image before it saves it. Okay, so when you do that, it takes 10 minutes to get the picture. Okay, you did a 5-minute exposure and 5 minutes for it to edit. So you got to add that together is 10 minutes. So when I do Star Trails, I want at least a half an hour. That you get a lot better picture if you go longer, but I want at least a half an hour. So when I set the image up and I set it on bulb, I watch my watch for a half an hour, and after the exposure, that half hour, I turn the exposure off. Now I have to wait another half an hour for the camera to edit that image before I can even see it. Okay, so you have to consider how long you're going to be out there when you go out. You can do star trails without that though. You can do star trails at a few seconds at a time if you want, or a minute or two at a time, and then just keep doing them. Do a minute, wait a minute, do another minute, wait a minute, do another minute, wait a minute, do another minute. And when you bring them into your computer, you put them all together. You image stack them. And then you
Oh,
can get
image
star trails that way. Okay, because each minute will show motion. Okay, so when you put those all together, you'll see the whole line all the way around.
But Steve, if
Yeah.
you keep a minute gap between them, you're gonna start showing a dashed line rather than a continuous line.
So you can do seconds.
Right.
So, but
Do a 1 minute exposure and then a 1 second reset to do the next exposure. But using what is it, intervalometer,
okay,
you can set all that. So it automatically does it for your camera.
Lay down,
What I do is, you
Lay
know, you
down.
might take 100, 200 images, each of them just a minute or
lay down.
3 minutes long. And then after you get all those images, put them in one folder. And I use a program called Star Tracks. And all you have to do is point to that folder and it'll take all those images and compress them into one image, which is really cool. You can do it manually, and all you have to do is stack the images in Photoshop and change the blend mode on each of them to lighten. And that way, just the lighter part of the image will show up. And that's what makes the star trail.
but to get the 1 second exposure, you have to turn off your, or the 1 second delay. You have to turn off your noise reduction.
Yeah, I don't use noise reduction because with that short exposure, you don't create a lot of noise. It's when you take a half-hour exposure that you're going to create a lot of noise in your image.
So a lot of times, if I go out, I take 2 cameras. So I'll set one up and set the technique with the size, same with, I put the same size lens on each camera. So then I set them both up. I take the one and it makes half an hour. And I go, and while I'm waiting for that one, I set up the other one and shoot for another half an hour or an hour. Okay, so then I can keep working instead of just sitting there twiddling my thumbs waiting for the camera. So, but if I turn on that noise reduction, you get a much smoother image. If anybody's ever done that or hasn't done it, you need to at least try it. I mean, even if you only do a 15-minute exposure, it's amazing what you see and the colors that you get
Yeah.
in the sky and the stars.
But you gotta be somewhere where it's dark, right? I mean, you couldn't do that. You gotta be out in the dark, dark.
Mary, I'll have to look it up to show you. I've got one where I was just down in my my neighbor. Well, it's my daughter's yard now, but it was a neighbor at the time, and she told me I could go on down there and sit in her field, and I shot the camera towards Acme, so I had all the Acme lights in the picture, but I still got star trails. But it was amazing the color and what you get. They had these
Hello?
your camera.
My thing just froze up, so I have no idea what you said, sorry.
Oh, okay. What I said was your eyes don't see near so much as what your camera, like Terry said, what your camera sees. So like at night, when you're out there doing that, an hour or so, anything down on the ground, there's gonna be something show up in there that you maybe didn't expect to show up.
Hmm.
So you have to pick a spot where what's on the ground isn't gonna mess up your picture, or you may just have to crop it out later.
Okay,
But if you aim it up at the sky and just get the tree line, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, you can go, another good place to go for night photography, and it faces north, is go up to the state park at the tip of the Leelanau Peninsula. If you go up there at night, after the gates closed, the gate isn't actually locked or closed, but the DNR officer leaves. I go down in the campground and drive along the shoreline and look for a place a campsite that's open. And I'll back into a campsite and sit there and wait for Northern Lights, or I'll set up and do star trails or something right from there, because you're facing directly north, right off the tip. And what's cool about that is once in a while you get pictures from the lighthouse. As the lighthouse goes around, you'll get the light shining out across the water, or you'll get a big freighter that's driving through your picture. And that's pretty cool too.
and that's the state park at the tip of Leelanau?
Leelanau Peninsula, yeah. And it's kind of odd when you're in there at 3 o'clock in the morning, everybody's in their tents or whatever sleeping, but you're sitting there taking pictures, but it's fun. I mean, you can even park up in the parking area instead of driving down in the campground. And you walk down in there, there are benches along the shoreline that you can just up and sit on a bench. Or you can go up and sit in front of the lighthouse, whatever works for you. It's pretty cool. That's a good spot. I always take something to eat and something to drink and plan to spend the night. I get comfortable.
The park at Acme is good for that too.
It is. It's a great spot. And Acme is the same way. You can get in different angles, different parts of Acme. If you go to the first roadside rest area, just as you get in, coming into Acme, you can get a different angle than what you get if you go up to the part that Amy was talking about, farther up by 72. Or you can go on up to Deepwater Point. There's a boat launch in there, and you can go in there and shoot, and you get an altogether different angle from there. And at night, it's just amazing. And like you said, after doing it a while, the creepiness kind of wears off of you. It doesn't bother you near so much.
It doesn't bother you near so much.
You get used to it. So I really even don't have to get very far from my truck to, and that always makes you feel more comfortable if you got something to go run hide in.
I guess I have to stop watching Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah. I've not had any problem with anybody actually being a threat to me. In fact, I don't worry about it, because one time or another, some police officer is going to show up. So.
Right.
I've even had the DNR officers or the Rangers while I was sitting at Glen Arbor, sitting up there by myself and have had them walk up and check on me, see what I was doing. So that's cool. They're doing their job. They're keeping me safe. I'm good.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's kind of odd though, when they drive up and their headlights mess up your picture, because then you're kind of angry with them. But yeah. I've had to tell people how to turn their headlights off too, because they'll pull up there to park to get out to do Northern Lights, and their headlights are on. They turn the car off and they're getting in the car, getting their gear and stuff, and they're walking up to sit with me and their headlights are still on. So they don't realize they can turn their headlights off before they even get out of their car.
Yeah, the cars are like our cameras. They're just too complicated anymore.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
There was one lady that was doing night pictures of the lightning, and she would invariably show up wherever I was going. And she would come in with her Dodge Caravan and her headlights, and it would just drive me nuts because the lightning's going off and I'm trying to get pictures, and I have her headlights shining out across the water. I finally explained to her that she could shut those headlights off. I'd sure appreciate it. And she's like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that. How do you do it?" So I actually showed her how to do it. And she's like, "Oh, I didn't know I could do that." So after that, she was kind enough that she would pull into the parking area and then turn off before she even got to where she wanted to park. So, and she got so, if there was a storm someplace that I could get a better picture at night or whatever, she would call me or email me and say, "Hey, you need to get here right now." And so I'd go out there to do pictures and she'd meet me out there and we'd do pictures together.
Yes.
That's how I got pictures of that big storm that August. I met up like 3 times during the day trying to get pictures of lightning. And finally I said, "I'm going home for dinner." And I said, "I don't know if there's going to be any more or not." I just got done dinner and was going to look on the computer at the radar. And she called me and says, "Get down here now, get down here right away." So I got down there in time. There were people parked in where I wanted to be, and she made a move. So I get back in and get pictures. So I don't know who she worked for, but she was some kind of storm chaser, and she reported to the news media and that with pictures that she got.
Did you give her an application for the camera club?
Absolutely,
Good.
absolutely. She didn't join, but absolutely. We used business cards, so we knew how to get a hold of each other. So yeah,
Cool.
but it's fun to go out at night. I mean, you look at James's picture there, the city behind him, and it's a long exposure. You can see the car street lights, the cars going by, and you can see all the lights in the building. But yet the sky is black.
Jim, where did you take that picture behind you?
That's in Chicago. I was staying in a hotel, and the window just happened. And well, I actually looked for a hotel that faced the city. It was on the outskirts of the city, and set my camera up, and was just lucky enough to have. I asked the clerk to put me on, or the gal behind the counter, to give me a room that faced the city, and was lucky enough to get the shot like that.
That's a nice shot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Were you using a wide angle lens on that shot?
Yeah, I think it was like a 24, something like that. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. It's been quite a few years since I took that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the curvature of the buildings that are behind you, and they're kind of extreme on each side of you.
Yeah, it did bend it a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot about photography, about digital photography, and I could probably straighten it out a little bit if I went in and played with it.
Yeah.
I'd
some
leave it as
out of
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
kind
Jim,
of
you
cool.
There's an earthquake.
Was that shortly after sunset? And look at one corner, you can see.
Yeah, probably, because we checked in, it was probably right towards dusk. And by the time I got up to the room and everything, it was already, the sun was down. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see some orange in the sky a little bit. But yeah, that's a great job. And that's kind of what you want to try to do when you're like going over to the holiday shopper on the west side of the bay in that one big parking lot. And I've never had anybody bother me there. I just park and I get out and walk over to the shoreline and stand there with my tripod and take pictures across the bay at night. And nobody's ever bothered me. A lot of times I'm there though, it's like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, so not many people's up or moving around in there. So maybe that's why nobody's ever bothered me. I don't know if that building has what would you call it, guards or some kind of security or not, but I mean, if they tell me to leave, I'll leave, but I'm not taking anybody's parking lot space because they're not coming in that time of the day usually. So, and I've been there in the middle of winter too, doing pictures across the ice. Same thing. It's a great spot. You can get good moon pictures there too. Has anybody done pictures of the moon? What kind of techniques you use? But basically I shoot the same way as if I were shooting daylight when I shoot a picture of the moon. Again, if you're using, I use like 100 ISO and 100th of a second at f8. And that'll get you started. That'll get you close, but you got to remember the moon is always moving. So you have to have a fast exposure. Otherwise it'll be a little bit blurry. You get a little motion in the picture. If you use a really big lens, I've been trying to set up and set my techniques and get the picture, and I'll line it up where I want, and I'll go to take the picture and look at it on the back of the screen. It's already moved across the image, and I have to set it up again. It's amazing how fast the Earth turns and the moon will get out of your picture when you're using a big lens.
Interesting. It's 10:51. I just offer that for
Okay.
if we have any further wrap-up conversation or whatever. I came across an article from Capture Lenses. I don't know, it's in my feed. And they talked about night photography, and this author provided some cheat sheets for people, which I don't think any of you need, but I found it was kind of interesting. And it augments what we've been talking about here. It talks about, it gives you talks about the aperture, the ISO, the shutter speed, blah, 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 white balance. And then it gives you some cheat sheets about if you're using a full frame camera or a crop sensor, what millimeter lens. So for newbies, and then, then another cheat sheet talks about, remember, these are the things you should bring with you, when you're going to go do some night photography. And, it's just a lot of good data, if I can figure out a way, maybe I will do a short summary along with this video, and have that posted on our discussion website as sort of a summary. So if I can figure out how to get this information into that format. So
Mary, was that in that email you sent me with the link?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. We can just send the link to them and they can just go look at it. And
Yeah, that's a better idea, actually. I don't remember if I have the link. I was looking for the link before we started and I didn't see it.
I think I still have it. If you want, I can send it back to you. And
Yeah, if
know
you
how to
send it
use the
back to
mail-
me, I'll just,
yeah, you know how to do the MailChimp thing, and I can let you put it in a MailChimp to them.
yeah, I can do that. I can put that together,
Okay.
send it out.
What was the name of that again?
It was a article in a blog, I guess, that's called Capture Landscape. Capture Landscape, but it's all about night photography. And it's kind of a beginning level. But, we can certainly send that out on MailChimp and also ask Sam to post it. So,
Sounds good.
okay.
Anybody got anything to add? Any questions?
What's the plan for next month, Steve?
Oh, goodness sakes. It's on our calendar. I don't have it written down offhand. I believe it has to do with snow photography, does it not? I'm
Yeah, the tips and tricks, you've got live view in there. And for the topic is snow photography.
yeah.
Capture white snow and maintain your details. The discussion group, little discussion group thing that we've written up here is now posted on the TAC website. So all of the future discussion group topics are sitting out there under,
Yeah,
under the
Sam put
discussion.
that up there for us.
Well, maybe we'll get lucky and have some snow.
But yeah, but that's important, you know, when you go out to do snow photography and your camera wants to make it gray. So, and then of course you get the blue because of the white balance. And so all of that's going to take place in how to get that white snow and some of the things like, I was talking with Jody and Terry and Marilyn the other night was the sparkles that you can get in the snow with the flakes. So, or maybe even getting a snowflake picture, just a picture of one flake. So we'll see. I'm gonna experiment if we get some snow by then. I was telling Terry I want to take I've got some black plexiglass and I want to get it cold so that when I put it outside and a snowflake lands on it, it doesn't melt. So I want to try to get a picture of a snowflake on the black plexiglass so that you kind of get a reflection as well as the snowflake itself. So we shall see.
A friend of mine used to take pictures of, you know, how on a window, the ice forms or the steam creates ice, you know, an ice image. And
Yeah.
those were pretty cool too.
They are indeed. Of course, with my windows, with being all insulated, that you don't get that. I've thought about taking a mister, a little spray bottle that will mist it and misting my garage window on the door because it's not double pane. Maybe that would freeze and give me some of those designs. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
So yeah, so snow and
White balance, or image, live
Image.
image.
white image. Yep. Okay.
Okay,
Shall we close it out?
yeah, so everybody, thank you for coming and tell your friends,
Yeah.
you know, we'll see.
And
you
Merry
next-
Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
to everybody, and get some good colors at night with those Christmas lights.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Mary.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank
now.
you.